Where do you stand on video games? Did you play a lot when you were a kid? Do you have kids that play video games? Do you like board games? Do you like strategy games? Do you like, games of the mind? And why do you think I have all of these questions? Well, let's run the intro, and I think that'll explain everything. Let's go. Welcome to Trailer Park, the podcast trailer podcast. I'm Ariel Nissenblatt. On this show, it's trailer time. Podcast trailers, that is. We hit play on a podcast trailer, and then we discuss that trailer. Was it entertaining, expressive, unique, innovative? We talk about what we liked about that trailer and what we think could be improved. And then sometimes we hear from the creators of that trailer. They jump in and tell us what went into the making of it. We do all of this because we think that trailers are great. They're a great way to discover new audio content for the listeners among us, and they're a great way to improve our craft as audio creators. It is a twofold mission. So that should explain my gaming line of questioning up at the top. But if it doesn't, here's the connection. Today's trailer for Trailer Park, the podcast trailer podcast, comes to us from Eric Silver of Multitude Productions. The trailer is for a show called Games and Feelings. We'll hit play on that trailer in just a moment, and then we'll come back for some chatter. And you may have noticed that so far on this episode, it's just me talking, which is different because usually this is me and Tim Villegas talking about trailers. We are a duo. However, we did discuss between season 1 and season 2 trying out doing some solo episodes here and there. And we actually were not going to do it for this episode. But when we started to record, we realized that Tim's hardware, he has an audio interface. It wasn't updated, or there was some sort of issue. We weren't exactly sure what was going on. So we decided there is no time like the present to test out new episode formatting. So here I am. But you will still be hearing from Tim. You will not be without him. We're going to leave some time in our analysis after the trailer to get his take on the trailer, what he liked, what he didn't like, what could be improved. You know the deal. So let's hear the trailer, and then we will be back with my take and then Tim's take. How does that sound? Let's hit the tape.
Hello, gamers. See, you might have felt a type of way about me calling you a gamer. And that's not because of what you're playing, because if you like games, you might be a gamer, but because of all of that other human stuff that gets in the way. Like how other people look at you, how society look at games, and how we look at ourselves. That's why this show exists. Games and Feelings is an advice podcast about games. Join me, question keeper Eric Silver, and a revolving cast of guests as we answer your questions at the intersection of fun and humanity, because you gotta play games with other people. And we're talking about every single type of game. Video games, tabletop games, party games, laser tag, escape rooms, game streams, D&D podcasts, the companies and the workers that make these games, anything and everything in between. If you like what you hear and want to level up your emotional intelligence, subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes every other Friday. Games and Feelings, because the instruction manual doesn't say anything about feelings.
Thank you, Eric, for submitting that trailer. Before we get to our asynchronous analysis of the trailer for Games and Feelings, let's make sure our listeners know how this show works. So, how did Eric get his trailer for Games and Feelings into your ears? Well, he submitted it to us via a form on our website. You can find that form by going to trailerparkpodcast.crd.co. Boom, it's that easy. Here's a little bit more about Games and Feelings. It's billed as a games advice podcast. From their website, Games and Feelings is an advice podcast about being human and loving all types of games. Video games, TTRPGs, if you're not familiar, that's tabletop role-playing games. And I realized that sounded like I read it off of a piece of paper like I'd never heard of it before. I actually have, but I was going through each of the letters and making sure that I got them right. So that's TTRPGs, tabletop role-playing games. There you go. Escape rooms, bar trivia, whatever the games are. Whether you need a game recommendation, you need to sort out a dispute, or you need to learn how to put your money where your mouth is when buying something, our revolving panel of experts in Games and Feelings are here to help. And this show comes to us from Multitude Productions, which is a really cool podcast production studio, as well as a physical recording studio in Brooklyn, New York. I'll start off with what I liked about this trailer, which is pretty much everything. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to have anything negative to say. I went through it. I was making a list of what I liked, and I was also trying to keep a bullet pointed list of what I didn't like, and I didn't write anything on that list. So let's get to what I liked. First of all, what really stands out to me, say it with me now, is the music. I just thought it was so perfect, and I felt like I was inside a video game. Also, what stood out to me was the host's energy. Eric is clearly the right person to be hosting this show. I talk a lot when I'm being interviewed on podcasts about podcasting, about what makes you the perfect host for this show if you are considering becoming a podcast host. And I think it's very clear to me why Eric ideated this show, why Eric and Amanda and the team at Multitude came up with this show. This is Eric's passion. This is his baby. He wants to be talking about games. He wants to be talking about the feelings that come up when we play games, or when we think about playing games, or when we talk about talking about games. So Eric really makes sense to me here. I also really like that he addressed us right at the start. He said, "Hello, gamers." And then he made us think. He made us think, do we like that nickname? Do we want to be called gamers? If we don't want to be called gamers, what feelings is that bringing up for us? That is going beyond telling me just what's going to be happening on this show. It is asking me to think a little bit more. It's asking me to engage with the title of this show. I also really like that he named himself. Eric named himself the Question Keeper. He is already letting us in on inside jokes before the show even starts, so that when we go to episode 1, we know that that's Eric. He's the Question Keeper, and we know that we are gamers. I'm really intrigued by this topic because I have never really considered myself a gamer. I realized that I asked you all of those questions at the top of the show. Were you a video game player growing up? I didn't answer that question myself. I like word games. I don't really tend to love card games or strategy games or anything like that. And I never really grew up playing Nintendo or video games, or I did have a Game Boy. I saved up for that, but I really only played Frogger. So I didn't really consider myself a gamer. So this, to me, when we initially picked this trailer, I was thinking this is going to be relevant because I think a lot of people do identify as gamers, but I don't myself. So I think that the title of the show got me thinking, these questions got me thinking, and I am definitely intrigued by this topic. I also really like how at the end, Eric makes mention of the fact that instruction manuals only really talk about the rules. They don't talk about feelings. So that's kind of where this podcast comes in. It fills in those gaps. There are feelings that come up when we win, when we lose, when we tie, when we make new friends when we play. And that's what this podcast is going to talk about. So those are all the things that I really liked about this trailer. I honestly don't have anything negative to say. I think the only negative thing that I could possibly come up with is that just because this trailer is really great doesn't necessarily mean that I am going to become a full-fledged listener of this show, but that is more on me than it is on the trailer or on the cover art. The cover art is beautiful. You should check it out if you can. I just still don't necessarily consider myself a quote-unquote gamer, although I would like to hang out with the Question Keeper. Sounds like a great guy. Let's now hear from my co-host, Tim Villegas, who obviously is not here with me recording, but he's going to send in a voice clip, and we'll play that right now.
Thanks, Ariel. Happy to share how I feel about the trailer for Games and Feelings. I also have a ton of appreciation for this trailer. So quick positives, length. It was 1 minute. I'm increasingly convinced that this is the perfect amount of time for a trailer. If you keep the copy crisp like in this one, there's plenty of time to tell the listener about the show. I also really liked how Eric used the term level up during the call to action. It was a clever way to make me want to check out the show. I also love that Eric's voice was the first thing I heard, not the music. Though the music is fantastic and, from what I understand, was uniquely created for the show. So top notch, 5 stars, pass go, collect $200. Such a fabulous trailer. I do have one negative. And this message is not only for Eric and the fine folks at Multitude, but it goes out to all podcast creators out there. Turn off the ad spots on your trailers. It is such a bummer to hit play on a trailer and it's an ad for Mint Mobile or Kitty Litter. Y'all, it's a simple fix. Most platforms allow you to turn off ads on specific episodes. I am not against ads. They are essential to the sustainability of the medium. I'm just talking about your trailer. It will enhance the listener experience. Okay, that's all I got, Ariel. Back to you. I've got to get back to leveling up on Monopoly Go.
Thank you, Tim. One thing that I noticed over the years of being aware of Multitude Productions, the production house that created Games and Feelings, is that they do a really great job of cultivating fan bases for their shows, building community. They do this through a number of different avenues, but one that stands out to me is their live shows. We asked Eric about their live shows, and here is what he said.
We've always done live shows at conventions all the way back to PodX and PodCon, which I miss dearly. It's always been a thing that Multitude has wanted to do because like people are already there, we're already tabling, and it kind of is a nice opportunity to give the audience a chance to like be audience members for a while they're like really participating, really expending a lot of energy. And it's like, you know what, I'm going to enjoy someone else doing something for a second. Also, I love doing live shows, just getting actual in-person response to my stuff instead of kind of like waiting and seeing if someone will say that. And I have a theater background, so I just love doing stuff in front of people. But we did one in Manchester because that's where Jasper Cartwright, the permanent guest on our show, that's where he lives. And I was visiting him with Amanda, my wife, and it was just a fun chance to do it. I mean, I had never traveled to the United Kingdom before. I haven't had a lot of experience in Europe. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just do a live show. Let's see it because we wanted Multitude fans to be able to see us in Europe.
Thank you for sharing that, Eric, and thanks for submitting that voice clip. If you are interested in learning more about Games and Feelings, go to gamesandfeelings.com. We love an easy-to-remember website. Now, before we move on to the credits, dear listeners, a quick look back at our season so far. Last week, we played the trailer for Dad's Cry 2. The week before, the trailer for Creative Architects. And the trailer that started off season 2 of our show was from the show American Songbag. If any of those intrigued you, you can check out our back catalog and let us know what you think. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, telling us how much you love or don't love us. There's a lot of debate on the internet about the value of ratings and reviews, and let me share this. No, your leaving a review for us won't necessarily boost us up on the Apple Podcasts algorithm or the charts, but do you know what it will do? It will make us happy. It will make me happy. That's right. And sometimes that is better than an algorithm boost. So if you want to leave me a review, we will be happy to read it on this show in the coming weeks. We recently did get a new review from Jay Trotter, 5 stars. It says, I absolutely love podcast trailers. They're an art form unto themselves. Looking forward to hearing some trailers and some background info as well. We love to read it. Thank you, Jay, for submitting that. More soon, please. And until then, happy trailering, whether it's listening or creating. Bye. Oh, good. You stuck around. That means you get to hear about our sponsors. They're the ones that make this show possible. If you're a podcaster looking for ways to reach your audience, we recommend you check out FanList. If you go to fanlist.com/trailerpark, you can see our fan page. There you can send us a tip, you can ask a question, you can record a voice clip, and more. It's a really cool way to stay in touch with us and to support us. Did you know that fan engagement is critical in today's podcasting economy? You probably did know that. The more you engage with your listeners, the more they'll love you, support you, and help spread the word about your show. FanList makes it really easy for you to set up that entire system. Go to fanlist.com to learn more about creating a fan page for your podcast. We are also sponsored by OSHA. They're our podcast hosting provider. Their interface is extremely easy to use. If you're listening to this right now and you're a podcaster, you probably already have a hosting provider. And you probably think switching over will be annoying and cumbersome, but that is not the case. OSHA makes it really, really easy, and the switch is worth it. Try it out for yourself. Go to osha.co. That's AUSHA.co. Link in the show notes, of course. Find us on social media. We're at trailerpark_pod on Instagram. You can also email us. That's hello@trailerparkpod.com. This show is written and edited by us, Ariel Nissenblatt and Tim Villegas. Our music is from Melody, that's MELOD.IE. Our logo is by Kaio Slikta. We record the show on Squadcast and edit in Descript, though because this was a solo episode, it was recorded and edited in Descript. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to this episode and tuning in week after week, but especially to this episode where I was solo, except for Tim popping in with that voice clip. Thank you to Tim for popping in with that voice clip. We will catch you next time. Happy trails.